ultimately it comes down to, is it solving a real problem that people want solved? And are they actually willing to use it to solve that problem? If the selling point is it's cool, it's not worthwhile. It might get adoption immediately, but you're going to see that drop off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alex.
Hello, my name is OP.
Welcome to AI on Fire, the podcast where ideas spark, code burns, and the future of AI takes shape through the real stories from the people behind it.
Every fire has three elements: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Control those, and you control the flame. That's how we think about AI too. Not something to contain, but something to shape.
Today, we're exploring how AI is now not just helping teams build faster. It's starting to influence what gets built. Puts the product owners in very different position than before.
And building great products come down to experience, context, and knowing which trade-offs to make. AI can process information faster than any of us, but it can draw from years of previous wins and failures and gut instincts. That's still human dimension, I believe, and still our to own. So, Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today.
All right. Awesome to have you here. And we're jumping to the fire drill. It's 10 questions, quick answers only, and this will shape our future conversation. If you're ready, then let's set the fire up. Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
Ready to
AI
go.
in product, is it acceleration or destruction?
I'm going to say that it depends. If it's used well, acceleration, otherwise, distraction.
All right. Should AI ever suggest roadmap priorities?
Yes, roadmap priorities should come from a variety of sources, and AI should be one of those sources.
Who owns AI failure more, product or engineering?
I think we all would own that failure.
Yeah.
We're
Shipping
trying to
fast with
provoke
AI,
you,
brave or risky?
I'm going to say risky because AI is still at a point where it does need human oversight.
Does the slowdown effect of responsible AI practices justify the ultimate benefit to development teams?
I think so. When used correctly, responsible AI can help mitigate and manage potential problems in the future.
All right. Should product owners understand AI limitations from the technical standpoint?
Yes, everyone using AI should understand the limitations.
Do you trust AI generated insights by default?
No, I view it like anything you read on the internet. Always take it with a grain of salt. Don't trust everything at face value.
Oh my God. I've been doing it all wrong. All right. AI makes product roles easier or more stressful?
I think it's easier because you have access to more digestible information.
AI-powered product discovery, is it a breakthrough or illusion?
It depends on what data that you are bringing to the table.
All right. And the last one, AI will reduce the need for junior product roles.
No, but I think it would make those junior roles more powerful.
Awesome. All right. The fire drill
Wow.
is over. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fantastic.
Not too bad at all.
All right, all right. So let's start discussion. Traditionally, product owners synthesize user inputs, like business needs and different constraints to define the direction. And would be great if you walk us through how do you see the responsibility shifting right now when we have different AI tools that can analyze large data, user data, or like any additional input that and suggest different patterns, etc.
I see this as a great productivity booster for your product owner because it is sorting through a lot of different data. It is presenting it in a very more digestible manner and is pulling in from different sources, different formats. I see that as a huge time saver, having that in an easily digestible format. I think the product owner will still have a job reviewing that information, sometimes going back and checking those citations, diving deeper when necessary for things that maybe not align with expectations or seem interesting. But I see that as a great time saving.
So that's actually an interesting input. So obviously AI is making us more productive, right? But right now the concept of cursor for product owners is getting more and more popular, right? So what do you think about it? How do you think it will shape the work of product discovery?
I would absolutely love to have something like that. I've been kind of diving into a little bit of Cursor myself. I think prototyping will be a very powerful skill for product managers moving forward and our product owners being able to quickly visualize and see what something might look like and make adjustments and iterations gives you the power to better catch edge cases or find where things might get wonky before you hand that work off to the developer to better prioritize their time to actually writing code and test and shipping product.
So POCs and MVPs will become easier.
Exactly. It'll be much
Yeah,
easier for the
interesting.
product owner to create that MVP themselves.
Yeah, so like with a cursor and other coding assistants, it's more easier to create MVP. You don't need a development team to help product owners at some point. Uh, you know, uh, when we're talking about cursor for product owners, it's also like one step back about like what if we can develop anything very quickly and code generation becoming very cheap, at least for MVP part. How do we decide which product to develop? And interesting your view on that one, because development is easier, but like what to develop?
If we don't have
Yeah.
end users, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to that product owner, that product manager, and how they prioritize. I ultimately have a return on investment kind of view where we get to weigh that return. What do we gain from implementing that new feature? What is valuable to our users? What makes more people happy? What reduces our technical debt? What makes us faster? Weighing all of this really great quantitative and qualitative data and weigh that against the cost. What is the investment? Is this something that takes a month to build? 6 months, 12 months? I'm really hoping with these advancements in AI that investment is going to shrink more and more so that we can start to do more things. But I think it will still come down to the prioritization of what is important, what brings that best return on what we invest into that feature.
All right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And while working on features, obviously AI can do some analysis and whatsoever, but what does the human intuition, what role does the human intuition play in the current?
I think it's going to still be important because as a product manager, we are weighing a lot of different input sources, a lot of different formats. And some of that data is really great, quantifiable data. We have a lot of numbers, a lot of quantities that we can look at. We can see the revenue that we bring in, the users that are asking for it. But there's still going to be a lot of data that's more qualitative in nature, where it's going to be, you know, we don't have a great way to quantify that. Are we at a point where we can trust AI to effectively weigh quantitative and qualitative data against each other in the right way? I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think that's where that human intuition still comes into play.
I think this brings us to the next conversation point, the responsible AI.
Yeah,
Love
and
responsible AI.
from your perspective as a product manager, what does responsible AI look like in practical product decision perspective?
So actually started as a data scientist. So I was training machine learning models, I was building AI systems. And for me, that's where I started getting into the responsible AI space because I wanted to ensure that what I developed didn't cause harm. I look to folks like Kara Swisher, who's made a really great analogy in her burn book about technology having a lot of really great potential to do great things for society, but also it can cause a lot of harm. We can look at things like electricity, powers our home, powers our podcast, but it also caused the electric chair to come into place. It can be very lethal when used poorly. We don't want people sticking, forks in electrical sockets. As we start to leverage
Some
AI,
people
we
we
need
do.
to recognize that it does have the potential to cause harm. As the owner of a AI operations product, I want to expand that product so that we can help our users make responsible AI easy to make have our users ensure that they're not causing harm with what they built. And that kind of comes down to several different things. It's understanding the health of the model. Models are not always right. Some models are more accurate than others. Understanding, is that model accuracy good enough for the use case? Sometimes it comes down to the limitations. Maybe my model is trained for explicitly one type of data set, one type of population. It wouldn't necessarily apply well to another. Sometimes it's how it's meant to be used. With computer vision models, they have the potential to put really kooky filters on our photos, or they can be used for facial recognition and policing. One is a riskier scenario than others. And sometimes it's just understanding and displaying potential areas for concern. Is our model showing predictive bias, performance bias? Is there something that is taking place that we should enact upon? So that long explanation was why we try to make sure that we have that responsible AI vision within these product
Any
decisions.
advice on how to recognize things like this, right? So unintended consequences that were introduced by AI.
Sometimes it can be a little bit of a thought exercise. Sometimes you have to think about what happens if the model gets it wrong. And that happens a lot. The model isn't accurate 100% of the time. We're not accurate 100% of the time. You want to ensure that you're designing not for that single failure point, but sometimes you have to recognize what could take place and use that to understand the harms. In some use cases, perhaps that wrong answer leads to someone not being able to buy a home. Sometimes that wrong answer means that someone's not getting life-saving care. And sometimes being incorrect just means that the eye on my little dog photo filter on Snapchat doesn't quite fit right. So it is ultimately trying to figure out what could go wrong and what are the costs of that answer being wrong. And sometimes it's unforeseen circumstances. If we look at some of the things we've seen on the internet, we do see parasocial relationships forming between users and influencers and celebrities, and now ChatGPT. We could have expected some of that, but did we expect people to start having delusions around ChatGPT? Did we expect ChatGPT to start to influence those delusions and to not quite shut those down, but rather letting them continue? Some of those things you don't quite foresee, but you need to be able to quickly adjust and fix these problems when they do occur.
Yeah, yeah. And from the more business perspective, when teams feel pressure to move quickly, for example, because like management see or talk about it, and here, like with AI we can do like much quicker, faster, etc., and more. So how do you advocate for ethical or safety consideration with this pressure on fast, fast, fast tomorrow, yesterday?
I think you have to break it down into what the costs are. What are the risks that we are taking on? If we are found that we have released an AI that is biased, that's a reputational risk. That's lost revenue because people are going to choose not to use our service. Sometimes there is also going to be costs. If you're being sued, there might be legal costs. There are regulations around data privacy, around AI security. And if we are found to be not in compliant, there's also going to be a financial penalty. So there are costs for not being ethical or safe or secure or having our data privacy that we all need to keep in mind.
And who do you think should be accountable for this, like when we have unexpected outcomes?
I think it's going to be shared. It should be shared accountability. Just like you are adding a feature to an enterprise product, that's not a single source of failure. That's not a single person's responsibility. It comes down to how I write the requirement, how user experience designs that, how the code is written, how we test that feature, not just within our small little purview, but within the product as a whole, how we run through edge cases to see what could happen, maybe how we red team, how we check to make sure that that feature was implemented to how it was designed, to how the requirement was written. There are several different folks along the way who need to feel empowered to speak up and say something doesn't feel right. We need to make a correction. And I think that oversight is already built into that product process. And we just have to leverage that for AI features.
So we don't have anyone to blame, but we need someone to blame.
There's no single scapegoat.
Uh,
Maybe we'll
So
blame
from
you, Alex.
yeah, that's fine.
moving towards managing risk and expectation, how do you manage stakeholder expectation when those AI capabilities are uncertain, as we discuss, or parabolistics?
First is going to be transparency. People need to understand the limitations of AI. Some people need to understand that it's non deterministic. It's going to be wrong, it's going to give different answers, and they need to be prepared to recognize that, to question that, to do their own due diligence. Second, I think a feedback mechanism is very helpful in those cases where your user can tell you, hey, I recognize that sometimes it's going to get it wrong. Here's what I found, because that's very valuable data to understand where things were wrong so that you can correct them in the future so that you can get better. Sometimes that's through better evaluations, better guardrails, changing the data that you may have made available to your AI system, changing your prompt, or even changing that model that you're using or fine tuning it in a different way. With our partnership with those users, we can make things better so that perhaps it's going to be less wrong in the future.
That's really interesting input. So we also can talk about the signals that we're getting from end users, right? And everyone are trying to implement AI right now. Everything is AI right now. So how do you usually treat those signals? How do can you tell that AI is actually bringing some value rather than it's like a novelty or just another hype?
I think ultimately it comes down to, is it solving a real problem that people want solved? And are they actually willing to use it to solve that problem? If the selling point is it's cool, it's not worthwhile. It might get adoption immediately, but you're going to see that drop off. You ultimately need to see that it's solving a real problem and it's solving it in such a way that someone is willing to use it to solve that problem. It's not too cumbersome, it's efficient, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's not that useful in that form.
And on top of that, how do you think product managers should handle those trade-offs between innovation and reliability that we had?
I think it's going to come down to risk management. I think when we look at different industries, different use cases, some of them are inherently riskier than others. There is a higher cost to making that mistake. And for lower risk areas, you can really lean into that innovation. But for higher risk areas, you see them leaning more into being reliable to testing thoroughly. For example, if we look at marketing industries, they tend to be a little bit more innovative. They can serve ads really quickly with lots of tweaks because ultimately the cost of you not clicking that ad is a couple cents lost. But if you look at industries like financial services, like healthcare, there's a huge risk to getting it wrong, and they tend to lean more into that reliability.
That's an interesting intake. So let's talk about quality a little bit. With all AI implementation, I noticed that the quality standards are not as high as they used to be, right? So take the videos, right? Video generated by AI, like six fingers or two heads, whatever. Same with pictures. Same with any features, right? Sometimes the code is not as good as it used to be. So what does good enough look like right now?
Again, it comes back to risk management a bit. So if it's going to be risky scenario, good enough is going to have a stronger, more stringent definition. Also, it comes down to what someone's ultimately giving up for that. If it's a free service, if it's a low cost service, you can get away with more of those mistakes. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more high quality, they have more skin in the game, they're going to have higher expectations. So you need to look and see what value your users are expecting and what that risk appetite is like.
Interesting. How do you see the product manager role will evolve for the next, I don't know, few years with AI?
I think that product owners, again, get that opportunity to do more of that proof of concept. They get to take their ideas for new features. They can start to see how it works in their user interface, do little mock ups that they can share with user experience, that they can share with even the requester to get immediate feedback from those stakeholders. They get to try things out and see this, whatever edge cases might not have been considered, and just really start to improve upon that idea themselves before they start taking it to developers because developers have a long backlog. They have a lot of code that hopefully AI can help them write, but
Do you
they
even
need to
need development
prioritize
team?
their time there, right? Rather than fixing requirements and going back and looking at those edge cases.
But do you even need development team? Some people
I
go extreme and say, we don't need development team. Now AI will develop everything. So we don't need engineers.
I think it'll depend again for enterprise software. There's going to be that expectation of a very high quality, high performant, highly secure software. And I think you're going to need a development team for that. I think for small, little applications, things that are very niche, that don't necessarily need a ton of security, sure, you can have your own little self-rise startups. But I think it just ultimately depend on, what you're developing, whether or not you're going to need that development team in the future.
So speaking about the needs, what kind of skills do you think product owners will need in future that weren't critical before?
I think prototyping using that prompting again, it's and being able to iterate upon it without being super frustrated. Sometimes you try to create something and it's never quite right, and you just keep trying to tweak it just a little bit. So being able to iterate on that prototype, I think it will be a very valuable skill.
And on another hand, what do you think should never change about product manager role, no matter how advanced AI will become?
I think empathy should always stay in that product manager, product under owner role. I mean, my job is sometimes to understand that user's problems, and that's going to require a level of empathy. You got to be there to listen and to make sure that they feel heard and that you really care about the problems, even if you can't necessarily solve all their problems at once. I know I've logged into a website and started the website's chatbot, or I've made a call to a customer service line and you get a robot, and that's fine for simple problems. But for complex problems, it's incredibly frustrating. It's very demoralizing. Your experience, your feelings about that company start to go down. And I think for the product owner and the product manager, I get a lot of complex questions. I don't think that I'm going to be able to have an agent to just push all of those away. And so I'm going to be there to listen and understand, even if I don't always have the best solution at that time.
Wow, that's a really cool thought because yeah, agents are becoming more empathic, I would say, or pretend to be empathic, but I think under the hood they're like, ah, stupid meatballs, you don't understand anything.
I don't forget we're the meat space for AI, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If you guys have never heard about the human marketplace, I will drop the link in the comment section below. There is a place where agents can rent you as a meat layer. So it's all fun. But yeah, that's actually brings us to the end of the show. Time to set the fire down. Sophia, thanks for stepping it in into the heat with us. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Sure. I mean, thank you for letting me come on and think I just want to encourage people to act responsibly when they are these AI builders and users, demand transparency, demand that you can understand what the AI you're buying, purchasing, and using does from your AI builders.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for your grounded and positive perspective on the product manager role. Thank you for being with us.
All right.
Thanks for having
And
me.
thanks. And remember, AI may speed the work, but judgment still sets the direction. See you next time. Thanks, everyone.